there. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our live Friday question and answer class, where we talk about American accent training, pronunciation for American English, and everything related to improving your personal and professional communication in American English. In the last few classes, over the last few Fridays, I've been taking your questions and giving you information about common errors that happen in pronunciation because of the way American English is spelled. So we've looked at the letters for the vowel sounds and words with different vowel sound pronunciations. We've also looked at homonyms, which is words that have the same pronunciation even though they have different spelling and different meaning. We've also looked at some common errors that you make, that not you personally, but that people make because of the way words are spelled. So we're going to continue with that theme and topic today, but you can ask questions about anything that's on topic for American English pronunciation. So if you're here for the first time, if you're watching on Facebook and you have a question, you can put it in the comments, or you can jump over to the YouTube broadcast where I monitor the chat live. So people will ask me about words that they find difficult to pronounce, or about tips for improving their pronunciation, things like that. I'm so glad to have you here today. I like to provide a lot of free resources for American accent training because I think that even though there's quite a bit that you can find out there on Facebook and YouTube and other resources, sometimes it's very hard to know what applies to you and what to do personally to improve. So I talk with many, many people who are interested in being better understood when they're speaking English, but they're not sure exactly what they need to do that. So I'll be highlighting a lot of the free resources I have on my website, speechmodification.com, in my online classes, and on my YouTube channel during the course of this class. So anyway, welcome everyone. So our topic, talking about where the spelling of words can sometimes lead us astray, make us make mistakes that we wouldn't otherwise make. One of the things I was talking about this week on my YouTube channel, on my community page, was letters that are silent. So we see these letters in the word, and sometimes we struggle to pronounce that letter or the sound for that letter, and actually that letter should be silent. So one of the ones that people often ask me about are words like walk and talk. They often think they should be trying to say the L sound in these words, and that's difficult and it's not correct. We actually don't say the L sound. Sometimes the L in these types of words will affect how we pronounce the vowel, but it's most important to forget about the L and focus on the sounds that are actually in the word. So the word walk is actually pronounced the exact same as this word, which might not be a word you use that much, but that's the Chinese cooking dish, a wok. And both of those have the W, the ah vowel, as in caught law, and the K sound. So you see only 3 sounds, even though we have 4 letters. Walk and walk. So same thing with talk. It's got the same vowel. It rhymes with walk, and we don't say the L sound. Perhaps if I didn't have that L, I would have a different vowel sound there, and that's what's making it be this vowel ah, the fact that the L is there. So it matters for spelling, to spell these words correctly and to know the rules, but when I'm looking at pronunciation, sometimes that L will just make it more difficult, more challenging for me, and I can just ignore it and think about the sounds, the walk sounds. If you're not familiar with these symbols I'm using, this is the International Phonetic Alphabet. You will find it in some online dictionaries and in my videos and resources. And in this alphabet, 1 symbol equals 1 sound. It's particularly useful for this topic of spelling versus sounds because, as we know, there's many, many different ways to spell the sounds of English. American English spelling is inconsistent. It's hard to interpret. And so, especially for vowel sounds and for sounds that you find challenging, it can be useful to learn the symbols. I have a lot of resources to help you with that, particularly my vowels playlist and individual videos about vowel sounds. So I mention this because you see this symbol, and that represents the sound ah. And that way I know that letter A in this word says the ah sound. I have recently created some additional videos for you talking specifically about the vowel letter. So I have one for A and for O so far. And in my A video, I talk about how that letter A can sound like ah, which is this symbol. It can sound like ah, which is this symbol, like as in black cat. So A like ah, father. A like ah, black. A like ah that we just did, law. And even though I use representations like this to help you think about the sound, if you can learn the symbol, it really makes it consistent for you that you can know. I also really like to use anchor words. And so you'll see on my vowels playlist and in my videos that I will refer back to the same words with those sounds. So you can begin to learn that I always call the vowel ah that's in this word the caught law vowel. And I can see there's already just in caught law 2 different spellings for that ah vowel, and the symbol is always consistent. So there's some rationale for learning the IPA. I will be showing you resources for an online dictionary I like that uses the same symbol system. If you already have an online dictionary that you like and you understand the way the pronunciation symbols work in that dictionary, go ahead and use it. You might just want to make sure that you understand the different vowel sound systems and that you can interpret the pronunciation correctly. A lot of times, people see something like this after the word in the dictionary, and it just confuses them even more. It's not that helpful. So part of what I do in my videos and in my free lessons is help you interpret the information that you can get for free out there on the internet or in your paper dictionary at home. So, okay, so that's one comment about the silent letter L and how we don't say that sound. And I got a little distracted talking about vowel sounds, but it's all related to sounds and spelling. We have a question from someone here. What about the word also? Is the L silent? If not, how can I pronounce it correctly? I have problems linking the dark L to the S sounds and sounds that's similar to S. Okay, that's a good question. So also is a challenging word, and I do say the L in that word, but I don't say a front L. So what you might notice is that if I try to do an L and I try to make it the same as the L in, for example, the word light, when I say light, my tongue goes behind my teeth, and it's a similar position for the L as for the T. Light, tight, I can feel that my tongue touches up there. But when I'm saying the word all, I still have to touch the front of my tongue, but the back of my tongue is doing something different. So when I say light, I just lift up my tongue. When I say all, I have that ah vowel and then kind of a schwa, an sound, and then my L. So what people find difficult sometimes is having this, what's called the dark L, the L at the ends of words. So what I suggest is trying to say ah, say the vowel, and then the and then the L. Oh. And when my tongue goes into that sound, I just keep my tongue there. Oh. So the back of my tongue is more central, and just the front of my tongue lifts. So I do have a video about initial L and final L that walks you in more detail through those steps. I'll recommend checking that one out. But when you have to then go on to something else, you have to move kind of quickly through it. So to try also, it is almost like I'm not really doing much of an L there. I can't leave it out. I can't just say also or also. You can hear how that doesn't sound correct. So I do have to say also. But I just very, very quickly and lightly touch my tongue up for the L, and then it goes right into that S position. So one thing you could try is just doing without this vowel. Try doing also. also, and focusing on thinking of this as being an L, also, and then you can add the ah, also. It is quite challenging. I know I'm going through those steps fairly quickly, but I think if you work on your dark L first, just work on all, getting that part of the word, and then you can break it up. So you can try also, and then as you get more comfortable with the all, you should be able to more smoothly transition into the so. Also. Definitely tricky, so thank you for bringing that up, and quite challenging. I hope that helps you a little bit. So let's talk a little bit more about some other words that have the silent L. So we had walk and talk. Often it's between an A and another consonant. So for example, we had walk and talk. In the same scenario, we have calm and palm. We have salmon. And in that case, notice how these all had the ah, walk, calm, but salmon has the vowel a, like black cat. And then we also have another black cat vowel, we have half. So many times people think they have to say the L in the word half, and really it's just the three sounds, H, a, and f, half. And then in addition, another couple of very common words, could, would, should. All of these have that silent L. So they are just the vowel and going right into the final D. Could, would, should. This word would brings me to my next topic, which is that sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, we have words that have the same pronunciation but different spelling. So the word would has my vowel and the W and the D, and that's exactly the same as would. So I would like some wood. There's no difference between those two pronunciations, even though we have the spelling with two different vowels and we have that silent L. So those are called homonyms. They have the same sound. And some other words like that that are commonly used, and people often ask me about their pronunciation, are words like where and where. And there's even a third one that's less commonly used, where, like as in hardware or software. So where the question, where the verb, I wear clothes, and where like goods. All of these just have the W, the A, and the where. So if you're struggling, sometimes you may actually be pronouncing them correctly, but you think that they need to be different from each other, and therefore you find them hard to pronounce because you're trying to make a difference that's not there. Speaking of there, same pattern with a voice th, the air. This one goes here, and this one is the same as there, as in over there. There, as in belonging to them, their shoes, their clothes, and there, as in the contraction they are. They're going over there in their car. All have the exact same pronunciation, which is the voice th, the a, and the So this brings up something else, which is that Americans will typically pronounce these correctly, but then sometimes in writing, they don't know which one to use because they all sound the same. So they may have more of an issue with that. Whereas if you learned English as a second language, you might be better at knowing which one of these to use, but you might be thinking that you need to pronounce them differently from one another. While I'm on the subject of contractions like there, that's another element of accent that is something that's noticeable when you're speaking English. So Americans will almost always contract words like there, and we're, and I'm, and I'll, whereas non-native speakers will often say, we are going, I am coming, I will be there. And this is something else that you can look at if you're ready for it in your speech that's going to help you sound more fluent and more American, is if you contract those helping verbs like am, will, and are. And I have some videos about contractions, and that's something that's included in my Real Talk course and my Real Talk playlist, where I tell you about the ways Americans reduce and contract and link words together to be more fluent in their everyday speech. So for more advanced learners, this is something that I highly recommend, looking into contractions. You might be pronouncing all of these words and all of your sounds correctly, but if you say, I will be there tomorrow, you'd still sound accented because that's not the way an American would say it. They would say, I'll be there tomorrow. They'll link it together and use contractions. Again, as I mentioned, that is something that you can find more about on my Real Talk playlist. And one of my online courses focuses on this specifically. It's called Real Talk, and it goes through and shows you the difference between spoken speech and written speech, and how your speech might be different because you're not doing those linkings and reductions and connections that Americans do. So I would recommend checking that out. You can find all of my online courses on speechmodification.com, and they all have a 2-week free trial. They also all have a very low subscription price. So I'm giving them out almost free as a way to help you organize and use all of the resources that are available to you to improve. For those of you who are just beginning the process of working on your American accent, or who maybe just need a little bit of help with that organization piece, I highly recommend my 6-week course. That's something that I teach here locally in the Seattle area, but you can also find it online, and you can do it at any time. You don't have to wait for when we have the class. So if you go to speechmodification.com and you look at the courses page, you can see all of the different courses that I offer. And for most people, I would say the 6-week course is a great starting point. It also is really useful even if you're a more advanced learner, because as I said, it helps teach you how to go through the steps of changing your speech. For many people, when they're in a class like this or just practicing on their own, it's not so difficult to change individual sounds and words or to adapt these techniques. But then you go to speak professionally or with your friends, and you find yourself not being able to say the words the new way or to use that correct pronunciation. And that's because we really rely on motor habits for speech. When I'm talking, I can't be thinking about whether or not I need to make the L sound in the word, or if I'm doing a dark L or a light L or a front L. And so I need to have practiced in a way that helps me build a new habit to pronounce things the American way. And so this course here, the 6-week course, is going to walk you through those steps. And let's just take a quick look at it. It has a ton of resources, and you can see everything that's in the course. The course curriculum unfolds week by week. So we look at accent patterns. We look at the most important sounds first. So we look at the things that affect how people understand you, affect how you're perceived and your grammar. And then we also look at more advanced topics like American intonation. So how does the stress pattern, the rhythm, all of those elements of speech, how do those interact with pronunciation? And so I would recommend checking that out if you haven't already. As I said, you can get a free 2-week trial, and it's less than $5 a month for your subscription if you'd like to check it out. Okay, so some other homonyms. So we talked about where, and where, and there, and there. A few others that I'd like to point out are, for example, the words sun and sun. And again, this is where knowing the vowel sounds versus the spelling is very helpful. So both of these words have the vowel schwa, which looks like that in this word. And so even though they have two different spellings, they both sound like sun. And so you may have a tendency to see that letter O and be doing something more like an O, like son, a little more rounding. So I want to just point out that when I look in the dictionary, I can see and I can listen to those words and hear that they're exactly the same. Speaking of dictionaries, I wanted to show you the online dictionary that I like to use the most, and that's the Oxford Learner's Dictionary. You can find links to it on my website, or you can also simply search oxfordlearnersdictionary.com. And so let me go to that for you. And the reason I like this dictionary more than other online dictionaries is that it uses the IPA symbols, and it also provides you with both the British pronunciation and the American English pronunciation. And so a really nice thing about that is that for many people, you might have been taught with British English pronunciation. And if you're looking to understand how your speech might be different than American English, that's one way it might be. So let's look at the next words I wanted to talk about. And this is a challenging word for many people to say, which is the word clothes. And part of why that's challenging is it has some difficult sounds. It has the voice th, v. It comes at the end of the word, which doesn't happen for many words in English. And then in addition to the v, it also has a z. So the word sounds like clothes, and it's very challenging to do the vz at the end. What I recommend for this word is that you notice here, so this one, clothes, you can see the symbol for the voice th and the symbol for the z, and I can listen to it.
Clothes.
And I can hear that the speaker is doing both sounds. But what you might not know is that most Americans don't bother doing that th sound in this particular word. They just say it like this.
Clothes.
So they just say clothes with the z sound. They leave the th off because it's very challenging to say clothes. And so if you struggle with this word, I recommend just using this pronunciation, which is used by most Americans, and it's the same as the word close. So I can say the word close like close the door, and the word clothes in the same way. So clothes and clothes. For both of those words, I can just say clothes. What you do want to watch out for in both of these words is that these letter S's and the SE, that they say a Z sound. If I say close or close, that's where someone may have difficulty understanding me. So I want to make sure that my voice is on at the end of that word. And this is one of the accent error patterns that I talk about a lot in many of my videos and in my courses. If you struggle to put that Z on the end of close, you can try for the verb, try putting it together with it, close it. Or with clothes, you can try my clothes are. So my clothes are clean. My clothes are in the closet. I put my clothes in the closet and then I close the door. So those are just a few tips to help you with that pronunciation. And I just wanted to point out that this challenging word can be said and pronounced more simply. So I hope that helps you. Not a lot of questions today. If anybody has questions, you can ask me about your words. It doesn't have to be on this particular topic. So anything that you're noticing and would like help with, go ahead and ask those at any point. I'm going to just say a few more things about this topic, about sounds and spelling and pronunciation, and then we'll close for today. So what I wanted to also say is that these words, these homonyms, words that have different spelling but the same pronunciation, I have quite a few videos and a playlist for that. And then I also have a lesson on my website. So I'll put the link to that here. And if you're looking for something in particular, you can use the search tools on my channel page to help you. That's really useful to find videos I've already made. But you can also always leave a comment on any of my videos. I do check those regularly, and I will let you know where to find the answers to your questions. Or if I don't have that answer ready already, I might make a video for you to help you with your particular question. So on speechmodification.com, you can also search there. So when you're on my homepage, you can use the search tools as well. Most of what you'll find here on the free practice, and go to the online practice free trial. And you can look for whatever topic you want to know about. So for example, if you were looking for homonyms, you could type that here in the search box and find it. Or, for example, if you're looking for example, when we were talking about the words like wood and wood, we were talking about how to pronounce words with two O's. And that's what I'd like to talk about next. So here's a lesson for that. So I just typed in OO, and you saw a long list of different lessons came up, including videos. And I can see in my free lessons that I have video materials, word lists, and recordings that I can use for practice. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Meg has a question. Good question, Meg. She wants to know, how do you pronounce breath in past tense? So breath, my breath, the noun, has a voiceless TH. Sounds like breath, same sound as in teeth and both, etc. I breathed has the voiced TH. So the past tense verb has this sound, the, and that's, again, very challenging. So I have to go from v to d. Both sounds are voiced. So the easiest way to do that is just to try breathe by itself first, and hold the TH as long as you need to get that correct tongue position and the voicing. So breath, voiceless, breathe, voiced. I breathe today. And then breathed. I breathed yesterday. So we don't say anything for that vowel sound. We have to go right from the TH to the D. Basically, it's a matter of putting my tongue between my teeth and then pulling it back into the D position. Breathed. That's challenging for me to say too. Fortunately, most of the time, I don't have to tell anybody I breathed yesterday. I could also say I was breathing. That might be an easier way. And again, in the verb, this is the voiced TH sound, like in that and the. And in the noun, breath, it's the voiceless, like in with and teeth. Voiced and voiceless TH are two sounds that I have a lot of videos about, and there's actually a full playlist about TH sounds that you can go to get more help for these patterns and others. But because this is voiced, then the D is also voiced in that word. Great question. So let's just talk about one more thing, and then we'll have to wrap up for today because it's getting close to 12:30. But I want to talk about words that have the letters OO, because I often hear people struggle with pronouncing these words. So most of the time when there's OO, it sounds like oo. For example, words like school and food, they have the oo sound. There's a symbol for oo. I call that the new shoe vowel. But in a few common words that we use a lot, the OO actually says and I call that the good book vowel. And good book are two of those words. Also the words like look and stood. And people have a tendency to pronounce these more like Luke and stood with too much of a tense oo vowel instead of my relaxed vowel. You can get specific help for pronouncing this vowel in my video about vowel and in my vowels playlist. If for a quick fix, try the words like should and would or push. Sometimes people find these to be a little bit easier, and they all also have the vowel. If I can say should or push easily, then I can pair it with the ones that I might be making incorrectly. So for example, I can try, I should have stood, and I want to keep the vowel the same. I don't want it to sound like I should have stood. I should have stood, or I should look. I would look. It was a good book, etc. And then lastly, sometimes the OO can say, when it's with an R, it can say something like or, floor, etc. Or it can also say, in a very few words, it says the vowel, like blood or flood. But most people don't have any trouble pronouncing these. So the main focus, if you're looking at this pattern, is to learn about the oo versus the vowel. I do have a lesson specifically on this topic, as well as many additional videos. So the lesson for pronouncing words with oo, I'm going to put the link for that now in the chat for you. And as I was showing you before, I searched right on the website on speechmodification.com, and I typed in OO on the search box, and I went right to that list of lessons, and this is the one that I'm going to recommend checking out. So again, it has the word list, so you can know which words to have which sounds. It has recordings to practice, and this one doesn't have the videos, but there are many lessons and videos on the website and on YouTube for you. We had another comment. Longman Dictionary has what Oxford Dictionary provides, but it also has voice audio, for example, sentences, not just words. I find this very helpful for English learners. Great, that's a good tip. So I'm not suggesting that one dictionary is better than another. Finding the one that's right for you, that has the best resources for you, is great. And thank you for that information. I'll check that one out as well, because you're right, it's very helpful to have example sentences, to listen and repeat. For many people, hearing pronunciation and repeating is the best first step. I use that quite a bit in my videos, in my teaching, because our accent affects how we hear the sounds as well as how we pronounce the sounds. And so it's very useful to use imitation as a technique to change your pronunciation and to begin to hear the differences that sometimes affect how you're pronouncing words and sounds. Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments and questions today and for being a part of class. We'll meet again next Friday, and we'll probably have a new topic since we've been talking about spelling and sounds for several weeks now. Maybe we'll move on to doing some work on intonation next time. If you have a request, please feel free to let me know, and I'll consider that for next week's class. And of course, as always, I'll be taking your questions, pointing out free resources, and trying to help you as best I can in improving your American accent. So thank you so much for being a part of class. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com.